up to as many questions
Yeah, man.
that we can answer, which is the practical reason of why we are doing this session. So my slides are mostly about my practical learnings of what I have understood about career growth till now. First, most importantly, I think this is there in most organizations, but a very important part of how you are setting goals. If you have to build a career over the next 30-35 years, it's important that you have benchmarks. What do I do 5 years down the line? What do I do 15 years down the line? What do I do eventually? What's my vision in life? And in that, if the goals can be smart, I think many of you would have heard this. When I say smart, I mean specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. The planning steps become more and more relevant as we go along, and therefore smart goals is a very important way in which you are setting up goals. In smart goal setting, it also becomes important that you are always looking for feedback. Now, personally, I call it feed forward rather than feedback, because as a mechanism or as a process, people who actually really care only give you feedback. Others will also tell you great job, good job. And in today's social media world, in which we are used to instant gratification, we are more used to the instant praises and the appreciations rather than genuine feedback that we get on our career path or on our growth. So appraisals is a great time to use that feedback. Reaching out to people who would know you moderately to well for feedback is also a great one. But going ahead in your career is also overcoming the things which are your obvious weaknesses. And therefore, feedback plays a very critical bit. Last 11 years of my career, I have realized network is one of the most important thing. A lot of times we look at networking as a very short term goal, that okay, I need a job and therefore I'll reach out to this person who is in this company. Okay, I need to do a course, let's say from London Business School, and I'd reach out to Dr. Manoj saying, Dr. Manoj, help us, how can I get a degree from there? I need a promotion. At that time, I start working really hard in the last 3 months before the appraisal cycle starts. That's not networking. Networking is when you are mutually getting connected to people for making sure that you care for each other's progress personally and professionally. And thus, there is no short term gain that you are looking at. You are looking to help each other. The keyword here is mutual. Are both people useful to each other in some way or the other? Find a mentor. I think I have had the good fortune to have 2 or 3 mentors right from the beginning of my career, but that happened because I was in an organization which was a 90-year-old media company, and there were a lot of good leaders in the company who themselves reached out. From my learnings, most of us don't have these mentors in the beginning of our careers, and mentors are all around you. May not necessarily be a super senior who is 20 years elder to you. It could just be a 5 year senior than you, but has seen some part of the corporate journey and can lead you well. It can actually sometimes also be a colleague who is better in the things that you are not good at, and therefore gives you the right direction in moving ahead in your career. And of course, know your industry. So for example, I keep taking examples from my current career so that you can relate to it more. I have worked in media, edtech, and working in the auto tech e-commerce space right now. If you're not good about the industry that you are managing, you will get repeatedly challenged. And therefore, spend time in knowing about your industry and becoming an expert in the job that you're doing or in the job that you aspire to do. Here I would introduce a very interesting framework or theory that I believe in the career path that you want to take. How many of you have heard about the Maslow's need hierarchy? Can I have a quick yes on the chat box, please? Maslow's need hierarchy, yes or a no? If you have not heard, you can mention a no. Okay, mostly people are saying yes. The hierarchy that I'm going to tell you right now is the professional hierarchy pyramid, if I may call it, or the power of hobby is what I like calling this particular hierarchy. The first step in this one is achievement. A lot of us start when we join our first jobs are in the achievement phase. We want to do our targets. We want to make sure that we get a great appraisal, great bonus at the end of the first year. There are these days in the startup crazy world, there are daily, weekly, monthly targets, and we are running behind them all the time. And mostly you are a hungry beast in this part of your career. Now, people who are able to quickly move to stage 2, which is the mastery phase. Now, the mastery phase is are people where they have gone above the achievement phase and are not getting too bothered by the fact that I have to prove myself every day, I cannot lose, I have to win. Move into the mastery phase where they start establishing themselves as a master in that particular field or that particular job profile. Let me give you an example. If you're a teacher in the achievement phase, you might want to get the best appraisal, let's say in the first few years of your career. But over a period of time, you will start getting known as a great maths teacher or as a great, let's say, an arts teacher. And that's true for anywhere at any time in your career also. This is the time when people start looking up to you that please teach me something or please help me in something, which is the mastery phase. The third phase, very few people are able to reach this phase, is the purpose phase in your career. Now, this is the phase where the person knows what is the purpose of their careers. What are they supposed to reach? That's the vision of their careers. And anything and everything that they're doing is working towards that vision. Just to give you a breakup of these three phases, research says 70% people are stuck in the achievement phase all their lives. I would repeat, 70% people are stuck in the achievement phase all their lives. So although they might look aggressive, hungry, but they don't grow as much in the competitive corporate world, because leaders are supposed to be masters. They are not supposed to beat down their own team members or their own colleagues by saying, I will achieve this and you couldn't achieve that. 23% people are able to reach the mastery phase in their career. 23% might also have some people who have not crossed the achievement phase. That means they are not good at achievement, but they have reached the mastery phase because they become a master at what they're doing, but they did not want to fight that achievement battle at all. So you should ideally you go from achievement to mastery, but some people can directly jump to mastery also. Only 7% people reach the purpose phase in life in their career growths. And these are the people whom you love listening to. These are the people whom you know the direction in which they are going towards. These are the people who are not chasing goals that someone else has told them to chase. These are the people who have absolute clarity on what they want to do in life. The reason why I call this slide or this hierarchy the power of hobby is because most successful people overcome the achievement phase of their life because they have a great hobby that kills the achievement hunger in their life. I'll tell you how. If you have seen a lot of successful CEOs and CXOs, if you ask them what do they do, how do they spend their day, they'll say they wake up very early in the morning and they go for exercising or they go for playing their favorite sport. Now, what happens in that 1 hour, 1.5 hours in the morning for them is they are using that power of hobby that they have to kill the achievement hunger for the day or for the week or for the month, so that when they come to work, there are more people who are driving mastery and driving purpose than saying, I want the target of the day to be done, which is more the work of their direct reportees and not them. So thus, the reason of power of hobby, I'll give you great examples. If you know the lady in the picture, can I have people who know the name, the name of the person in the picture, very famous person? If you can mention in the chat box, if my screen is visible. What is the name of the person in the picture? Okay, if the picture is not very clear, I'll give you the benefit of doubt. It's Angelina Jolie. She's a very famous Hollywood actress, and her most well-known hobby is daggers, collecting daggers, and that's how she spends her time. If you know this person, this is Mr. Tom Hanks, and he has a hobby of collecting typewriters, and that's Johnny Depp, again very famous Hollywood actor. His hobby is collecting dolls, multiple Oscar winners. And this person you will definitely know, right? Can I have the name of this person on the chat box, please? That has just come on your screen. Thank you for that, for Mr. Albert Einstein. He very famously loved playing the violin, and whenever he had his spare time, he said that he got more creative. He understood things better whenever he spent more time playing the instrument, because he felt that I overcame the need of winning today and focused on the fact that that my life is sacrificed to science, and I want to keep at it every day, every month, every year. The second interesting theory that I want to take you through, and mostly this covers the loopholes or the pushes that you will have from the world towards towards your career. The first among that is the fact that you will have to ignore the odds. Your family might be giving you some opinions, but it may or may not at certain times be the right professional opinion. So therefore, it's always better to go for the experts. Ignore the odds also mean you might have failures right in the beginning. Let's say you have a great entrepreneurial idea, but it fails right in the beginning once or twice. Don't take that failure as a failure, take that as a learning, that this is how you now know that you should not work, so that you can move forward. So ignoring the odds, embracing fear. Every time you do something new, you will feel scared. Everyone feels the same, but if you don't try something new, you're not going to learn. So embracing fear is a very critical part of career progress. And lastly, decide by doing and not by thinking. A lot of us, I call them are wannapreneurs, which basically means they want to start a business of their own, but they have never started it. But whenever a social gathering happens, a party happens, they meet friends, they're definitely going to talk about it. So these are the people who are deciding by thinking and not by doing. If you have a hobby, you are good at dancing, singing, writing, try it by doing. Go out in front of the world and take feedback from the open world to find out how you are, rather than sitting at home and just saying, oh god, I don't know how it will be taken, so I'm not going to do it. So that becomes very important. I've added some tips on your career. I think this is again coming from experience. Take the experience, ditch the title. Very important. A lot of times career success gets defined by the salary and the designation, and that's the worst way if you want to do well in a long career of yours. And therefore the experience becomes important. I've spoken about change, I've spoken about networking. Don't let the resume only talk for you. You should have multiple other mediums where other people, other avenues, other platforms are also talking for you, and that will depend on how well you're building your profile over a period of time. Career growth also depends a lot on delegation. Delegation also sometimes gets taken neutrally or negatively, if I've seen in the corporate world. Delegation means that you are properly explaining and empowering the people in your team so that you can start doing a job higher. Every time, every 6 months, every 1 year, you have to focus on the fact that are you moving on to the next level, because the teams below you are now well equipped to manage their careers. So this is my last slide. Some practical examples also. Firstly, learning will only happen when you are uncomfortable. When you're comfortable, when you're feeling absolutely fine, mostly learning is not happening. You're just repeating what you're good at. So if you want to do well in your career, try and make yourself uncomfortable multiple number of times. I don't mean make yourself stressed. So therefore I mentioned that separately. A lot of times we feel if we work for 20 hours a day, if we have a very tough job, a job that we are not enjoying, that is a way of making yourself uncomfortable. That's not uncomfortable, that's being stressed. Uncomfortable means you want to learn it, but right now you're not comfortable because you're in that change phase. Secondly, choose your battles. I have seen this multiple times. Yeah, keep yourself on mute, guys. I've seen it multiple times on people choosing the smaller battles, winning that bargain or quarrel with your team member or with your friend at work, which doesn't help. fight on the bigger ones. You should know what your battles are. Always plan learning, upgradation, interventions in between your career. Very important, and Dr. Manoj will talk more about it. Avoid negative people at work to become your close circle. Now, this one is a super important one. In your close circle, you will always find people who are influential but negative, powerful but negative. Please try and avoid such people if you are already aware of such people, to become your close circle. Width and depth, I think, varied experience over different sectors. When I say sectors, I mean the sectors or industries. When I say functions, I mean marketing, sales, finance, ops, admin, etc., HR, tech, product, all of them. The more exposure you have to varied functions, your career has a wider span. Realize when it becomes static in a role. It's not about before, where you can spend 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in similar careers. It's still the reality, but now the average number of jobs that people do over their careers is 11, 1 1, and it's not 1 or 2 anymore. So if it's 35 years, the average number of years per job comes down to around 3 to 4 years. Obviously 6 months to 1 year is not great, but again, after 5 to 6 years, ask yourself if you are continuously growing and learning before taking a call. And choose a manager more than an organization. I think nothing more important than this part. On this note, I would hand it over to Dr. Manoj. Doctor, over to you for taking it forward from here.
Thank you, Debojit, and thank you, Shreya, for that wonderful introduction. Truly excited to be here, and great to see some familiar names and familiar faces on this Zoom call. Debojit has given you a very, very detailed overview about career growth and some of the importance. And what I would like to do is that I would probably like to talk to you about 3 rules that there are a lot of rules that you can think of when you think of a career, but I'll probably talk about probably the most important 3 rules that I think are very important. Then I'll talk about 2 truths that I see when you think about careers today, and probably the organizations today. And then I'll probably distill all that and then give you a compass when you think of your career growth. Probably when I see some of the successful people, what I see in them, and probably how you can probably take that away. So I would probably say that it's a 3-2-1 kind of a rule, so that it's simple, so that you can remember this, and probably take something from this session. And again, I look forward to probably getting a lot of questions. So we'll keep some time for that Q&A, which I think is super important, because we have people from so many cities, so many different backgrounds. So I'm sure that there are probably things on your mind that we should discuss and debate in this session. The first and the most important thing that I would like to highlight, and this is something that Debojit had briefly mentioned. One of the advice that I've got very early in my career is about, when you think about a career, many times what happens is that we see this as a sprint. And, what it means is that we don't see it as a 30-year or a 35-year-old or, so many over a long period of time. So we all know the story of the hare and the tortoise. And we talk about, being steady in what you do is important. And when you think about people who run marathon and people who run sprint, there is definitely a big difference, right? So you're doing a 100-meter dash, the way you prepare for that is different versus that you're running a marathon, right? And you need to probably maintain your energy. You need to be consistent. And I think that is probably the first and the most important message. And many times when you think back at your career, or when you look at the experiences that you're gathering in your career, I think on the journey, it is important for you to probably enjoy the journey and get information and experiences that you can use later. So there is an important thing in terms of not expending all your energy in terms of what you're doing today, but in terms of conserving energy and in terms of managing that. So that's probably the first and the most important thing that I would talk about. Now let's just go to career rule 2. And when you think of career rule 2, I think being there is this psychologist in Stanford University, she did a lot of work on this, and she has kind of come out with something called a growth mindset. We'll talk about it a little later. Dr. Carol Dweck, right? And one of the things that she said is that people can have a fixed mindset and people can have a growth mindset. And when you have a growth mindset, what happens is you are somebody who is looking at learning from what is happening around you. And many times what happens is that we probably stop learning when we get out of college and get into a job, because then I think the focuses change, right? And I've seen this happen across in industries, because the pace of change that's happening around us is so fast. So if you don't be a learner, if you are not a learner, it's very difficult for you to maintain your energy and your grow your experiences, so that you can benefit as you grow in your career. I think one of the most important things that I would highlight here is, when you are thinking about learning, what happens is that you are probably learning from your mistakes, you're learning from your past experiences, and you're taking that forward. Because when organizations are paying for people with, say, they want to hire somebody with 5 years of experience or 10 years of experience, what they really mean is that, do you bring that experience to you in terms of working in a certain industry or a certain sector? And here, I think knowing your industry becomes really important. For example, you're probably joining finance as a financial analyst in the banking sector. You're probably joining, say, let's take State Bank of India, right? So when you join an organization like that, first and the most important thing is, obviously, you learn about your job. But I think the next level is that, do you know your company? And and once you know your company, do you know the industry? And do you know what's happening in the industry? Because again, many times when you are going for an interview, it's not about your job is something that they would check, but they would like to know what you are doing with what does you know about the industry? Or if you're in the IT industry and you are working for probably you are working at Infosys and you're probably assigned to one of the biggest insurance clients, and you are supporting them in their technology development. So you are an IT person, you are an engineer, programming, and you are helping them in development. But you are helping them in developing what? You're helping them in developing solutions for the clients from an insurance point of view. So do you know insurance? So the domain knowledge becomes important. So in other words, it's not only your job, it's probably allied things that you're doing. Do you gather that domain knowledge? And having the domain knowledge, for example, if you are working in this job, which I just mentioned, and tomorrow you're going and probably interviewing, say, with Accenture, and you want to join the insurance practice again, they can find maybe hundreds of engineers probably would have that development skill. But finding somebody who will have the domain skills along with that engineering skills is important. And why is it important? Because when you have that, you can design the right solutions, right? You can suggest and you can consult with your clients. So do your clients see you as an expert in that area? Because whenever we have to go and probably get solutions from somebody, we want somebody who understands the industry. So can you pick on that industry? If you are, for example, if you're in college and if you are probably thinking of getting into a job, and if you have a few industries that you've shortlisted, do you know probably a lot more about that industry than probably compared to your peers, right? And these days it's very easy to pick up knowledge because you have the internet, you have so many tools which are available, right? You have so much of analysis which is available to you. You have digital libraries, so you can access, for example, if somebody wants to know about insurance, can you think of insurance? I think how big is insurance industry, right? And within insurance also, there could be different sectors. There could be life insurance, there could be other things. So can you understand that and can you talk about it? And that becomes an important thing. And being a lifelong learner is important because it helps you build new skills. And in addition to what you have, and help you practice those skills, which becomes really important as you move forward. Let's move to career rule 3. And after The career is a marathon and be a lifelong learner. I think this is probably the most important thing that where I see people falter, right? When you're in a job, it is about execution. Please remember that, right? You've been hired by a company to get the job done. So tomorrow, your boss would give you more responsibilities if you are somebody who will execute well on what's given to you. So it's probably sometimes the same job. The job could probably be as simple as maybe Xeroxing something, right? And many jobs, they might call you a manager, but you might have to do a lot of those stuff also, right? But do you do that differently? Can you do that faster? Can you do that with better quality, right? And if there's a project report to be done, and if there are 5 people reporting to a manager, the manager will always go to somebody who completes the project in time, not necessarily somebody who probably takes a long time and does the best project, right? Because in organizations, execution is important. And at probably one of the companies that I used to work earlier, we used to say done is better than perfect, which means that getting something done, you need to be known for somebody. Somebody gives you a job, you complete it, you do it, right? And one of the things that I've seen with a lot of these young professionals in careers is that they said, oh, this is a job that I don't like. I would probably like to do this tomorrow. And that is what I want, right? But if you have to be considered for a job tomorrow, people first thing they look at is that, are you executing on what is given to you today, right? You might be the best engineer, right? But they would probably go to an average engineer who've done something and executed something, because the manager will have saying, okay, if there's an opportunity coming and we said, okay, I want to trust or give it to somebody who will do the job for me, right? Yes, quality is important. At the same time, like within your resources, finishing something within the time is important, because many times what your manager looks for is that is somebody dependable, because he is responsible for a delivery. He's giving you some work or delegating some work to you because he needs that work to go to somebody else. So having that is a very, very important thing. So done is better than perfect. It's about execution. So nobody is going to give you credit on what you're going to do. You can never say, oh, this is what I plan to do. Yes, you might plan to do, but people always look for proof in terms of executions. And that is sometimes very evident in interviews also. When they ask you in terms of what have you done in the past, they're trying to figure out, okay, have you executed on something? Not about, do you have any plans about, okay, what are you planning to do? So I think that is probably the third and the most important thing that I would focus on. So those are the 3 rules. 1, it's a marathon and not a sprint. 2nd, be a lifelong learner. And what is the 3rd one? The 3rd one is execute. Right? Execution. So these are the 3 important rules that I would leave you with. Now coming to probably thinking about the careers today, I think the careers of today are very different than probably from the careers probably maybe 15 years back or 20 years back, or when I started my career, because at that time it's about progression, right? It's about joining at a certain level, maybe an apprentice, then becoming an executive, then becoming a senior executive, then a manager, etc., etc. These days, thankfully, I think, you don't have to go through that. There isn't a pyramid, right? The way I would think about it, because you could probably be the junior most employee in an organization, but you can take and execute on roles or on projects which are very complex, which means that I think, you have that opportunity to make a big difference, being a very junior employee also, which is very true in probably, product companies. You could innovate, you could come out with an idea and you could probably develop that and, convert that into a product. So you have equal responsibility, or innovation is something that a lot of companies these days talk about, because they want people to do things differently and better, right? Because competition is probably much more than what it used to be in the past. And when you have a multiple number of people going after the same dollar from the customer, you need to probably do better things. So, at a junior level also, you can make a big difference. The second thing is that people can take a year out, right? In fact, maybe 20, 25 years back, if you tell somebody, I want to start a company, and then, that people say, no, that's a very risky thing. These days, you have capital available. You can start a company, you might learn something, the company may not do well, then you can come back to your career, you can take a sabbatical, You can do a reskilling course. You can probably take a path which you love and which takes you to where you want to go, right? That's probably the first thing that I would highlight. The second thing is, right, um, the actual job is what matters than the job title. And I would like to say, along with this, it's not the company that you work, it's the job that you do. You could probably be working for the best company in the world, right? But you could probably be doing a very non-consequential job tomorrow that can get eliminated or get automated, right? Or you could probably work in a very small company, but doing maybe cutting edge work, right? The biggest mistake that people make is that they go after job title. It's not what you're called. Companies, if company is willing to give you a very fancy designation, right, I'd be very suspect about such companies, right? Because it's because your experience, when you're thinking of a career as a 35-year or a 30-year-old journey, the experience that you gather is more important than the title that you have. Because again, the learning comes from doing probably the job, right? So look for jobs that will give you an opportunity to do more or probably grow. And if you look at some companies that recruit youngsters or people who are starting their career, some of them would give probably very high salary. Some of them won't give a great salary, but then they'll probably say, okay, you spend 1 year with us, you have a much faster progression in your salary, right? So I know of companies will probably hire people at X salary and don't give an increment, right, for a few years. And the same time, I know of companies will probably take people at X by 2, and then they give higher increments. And if you prove yourself, you have probably opportunity to probably bigger things, and your salary will grow to 2x, while somebody else's salary from X would have gone up by 10% or 20%, right? So it's not only the salary and the title. I think keep looking at what is the content of the job. With these 3 rules and 2 truths that I talk about, I think the thing that I would want you to take away from this is probably this slide, right? This is about you being successful in your career and how you think about your career. The way I would probably think about a career is that I would think about a career, think about a journey that you're making, maybe from the southern part of India to the northern part of India, or probably the western part of India to the eastern part of India. Doesn't matter, right? You're going, and that's a journey, right? It's a long journey. And when you drive your car, or when you're going in your automobile, right, you're going by highways, you have to take probably small roads. You have to take roads which have gutters, and which are probably half laid, right? So roads which are probably dangerous. You have to probably go up a mountain, down a mountain, right? So the journey is definitely going to be like not a freeway or a highway kind of a experience, right? You would probably have your car break down, etc., etc. So think about it from a journey point of view. And what does a gear help you in an automobile, right? People who've learned mechanical engineering, they know that when you're shifting your gears, what you're doing is that you can transfer power, right? Or you're cycling with have a geared cycle. You're able to pedal faster, get more power, right? Transfer more energy to your wheels, right? So that's what probably if you're in the first gear, you get a higher power, right? You get a bigger cruise when you go to your higher gears, right? You get a speed, right? So think about it. Think about your journey, right? There is definitely a destination which is important. And there is an important difference between speed and velocity that we learn in our high school physics, right? It's not the speed at which that you go that matters, right? It is the velocity. Why? Because it's not that you're traveling from at a certain speed. You're traveling at 50 km/h. But what is important is that, are you traveling at 50 km/h towards the west or towards the northeast? The direction is important. So the velocity becomes important, right? And the acronym that I would like to leave with you is GEAR, and G stands for the growth mindset, which I earlier mentioned. And I think, when you're thinking of the growth mindset, having that ability to learn from things around you, whether it's the industry, whether it's your boss, And I think, many times people complain that I have a bad boss, right? And I can tell you that, there are people that I worked with, maybe I would have worked with 7, 8 bosses in my career, and a couple of them were not great bosses. But you learn from your probably not so great bosses also what not to do when you're managing people, right? So there is a learning opportunity that you get in every situation you are, right? And the other thing when people think about is that, okay, they are in a pretty bad situation. What they want to do is that, okay, I want to change my job. Why? Because I don't like my boss or I don't like my peers, right? That is not a reason to change your job. If the job that you're doing is a great job from the content point of view, right? Many times we make that mistake of saying, okay, this is like saying that I don't like my maths teacher. Because I don't like my maths teacher, I'm not going to learn maths, right? And the problem there is that, if you're not going to learn maths, it's you who is going to suffer and not your maths teacher, right? So think about any job opportunity as, okay, you're probably in a difficult situation, and many of us would have been in a difficult situation in our career. When you think of your career, a long-term career, right? Think about where you want to go. Okay, you are shifting your job not because your boss is bad. You're shifting your job because the next opportunity is a better opportunity for you in the direction you want to go. So don't take the first job that comes your way because you want to get out of it. You have to always probably understand the larger journey, the direction. So that is again, another way of thinking about the growth mindset. So the next job that you're taking has to be something that is moving you in the direction where you want to go. The second thing is having an enterprise view, right? These days, gone are the days that, you are in a job and, you are probably in a, what we call in a box, typical box in an org structure, right? I would argue that, the box has gone away, right? Most of the jobs today have, you have to interface with multiple departments, right? Even if you are in one function, you're probably the junior most employee in, say, HR, in recruiting. You're probably a recruiter, right? But you have to interact with the business, right? You have to hire candidates and probably like explain to them about the company, right? You need to probably know about what kind of people make the best fit there. That means you need to know the industry, right? So having an enterprise-wide view is probably the next important thing. So, because how it will help is that it will help you in terms of making the biggest impact from the jobs that you have. The third thing is, agility and, which is nothing but flexibility, right? And that is something which is really important these days. And, you keep hearing about, agile, processes, which is nothing but, flexible processes, because you need to be able to shift, right? As you are moving in your vehicle, in your journey, or, in your career journey, right? If there is a bump on the road, you should be able to slow down and probably down your gear, and then, probably, shift gears and move. Or if if you have to go via, if there is a blockade on the road, you have to probably take a detour and come back, shortcut for sometimes, right? So having that flexibility in terms of oh, there's a traffic jam, you have to probably take, or there's an accident on the way, you have to probably take a detour, right? And come back to the highway again, right? So having that flexibility in terms of managing your career is an important thing that I would highlight. The fourth is redesign and reimagine. And when I talk about redesign and reimagine, I think this is your ability to probably think about, it's not that, you decide, okay, this is what I would like to do in the next 30 years of my career, right? You probably, as you go along, you have a destination in mind. You want to probably be somewhere. Sometimes that may not be really clear, which is fine, because in interviews, typically we ask people, okay, what do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? The interviewer is not looking at something, very, very specific. Interviewer is looking at, okay, does this person have the ability to think about something from a practical point of view, right? And, how does that person, assess that, his strengths and, move in that direction, right? So you should be able to redesign, reimagine, because we are constantly required to probably do that. Maybe 20 years back, the opportunities that we have today didn't exist, right? So when you started your career, for example, like when I started my career in 1997, some of the companies that I later worked didn't even exist, some of the big companies in the world, right? So what it means is that having your ability to reassess and rethink and reimagine, right? I think that is an important aspect when you think about your career. Okay, just to conclude, I think I talked to you about 3 rules. One is see your career as a marathon and not a sprint, right? The second is be a lifelong learner. The third is focus on execution because that is key, right? Those are the 3 rules, right? And then, we talked about job content being more important than the job title. And we talked about one more thing. What was that? The career is no longer a linear career these days. So I'm sure that you're familiar with that. So you cannot think about a career as something that you join the junior most person and go to the CEO. You could probably be doing different things on the way, and it's absolutely fine to do that. In fact, many years back, companies did not have an individual career track. Right now, many companies have an individual career track. I remember when I started my career, we used to say, okay, unless you probably start managing people and get into a manager role, you cannot grow, right? These days, there are individual career opportunities, what they call the technical paths, right? Or an expertise. You could probably be an expert in the world on a certain area, right? And not have anybody report to you, right? Yeah, so these are the thoughts that I would like to leave you all with, and look forward to some questions and some engaging discussions.
Beautiful summary, Dr. Manoj, and we absolutely love the quote with which you are also ending, with how Steve Jobs has mentioned that it's the best way of doing great work is to love what we do. And if we haven't found it yet, as per your previous slides also, don't settle. You have to keep looking in order to build a career of our choice.
Absolutely.
Open to questions, people. We have 1 or 2 questions already, sir. I'll just read them out for you. Sahib asks, please refer some books for career growth. And if I have done a 1-month course, will it help me to get an internship? That's the question.
First is AB class में क्या हो?
So, yeah, keep yourself on mute to avoid disturbance. Sahib, I will be forwarding you the. Yeah, Sahib, I will be forwarding you some books on career growth. And if you can just reword your second question a little better, I think that would help. Shiva is asking Dr. Manoj, which works well in career growth, being an expert or being an all-rounder?
See, the thing is that I think on the first question, the growth mindset is a book written by Dr. Carol Dweck. So that's something that I would definitely recommend, right? And as Debojit mentioned, he will refer some books also. The key here is that, keep constantly learning, right? It's not many times the book that matters. It's probably sometimes it's probably a small forward that you get on your, on your WhatsApp, right? Or it could probably be a news item which is there, or it's something that you see on the TV, right? Thinking about what some companies are doing. Or probably, I think what I would recommend is that, read about autobiographies, which are probably very, very helpful, right? Successful business leaders. So if you are probably thinking from a business career point of view, the number of business leaders, right? That, maybe you learn about Tata, how Tatas are built. Right? There are a lot of these things that you can find, and a lot of stories about great leaders, which I think probably would help you in terms of understanding how they behaved in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, Shiva's question, sir, which works well in career growth, being an expert or being an all-rounder?
See, the thing is, I would say that, it's about what you would like to do, right? So, for example, there are some people who would like to be an expert. In fact, when I first went to the US many years back, one thing I was fascinated by is that, for example, I used to recruit a lot for Infosys very early in my career. And, you hire a software engineer, and within 18 months, we want to move him to a technical lead or a module lead. So he has to start probably becoming a technical expert, or probably start managing a few people. And by 5 years, 7 years, people are out of programming completely. They're probably getting into management, right? And probably, some of the software engineers that I've seen in the US, 20 years, 25 years doing only programming, right? And, they have a depth in terms of doing that, right? And, when I was recruiting for another company, like, Google many years back, a software engineer, we would hire somebody with 20 years of programming only experience. That person is probably the best programmer in the world in that area, right? So it's a question of what you're passionate about, right? Now, for example, like if you look at the Indian cricket team, there are specialists and there are all-rounders, right? And both has their roles, right? So it's what you enjoy. I think that's the most important thing, right? And if you really enjoy being a specialist, there is nothing that can stop you in terms of becoming a specialist, right? In fact, I was reading somewhere that if you spend 1 hour a day researching and thinking about a topic, in 3 years' time, right, you can probably be the top 1% of people in the world, right, of that expertise, right? In terms of consistently over 3 years, that means probably 1,000 days. You have to spend 1 hour and read and learn on a certain topic, right? You can probably be the top 1% of the people in the world, with that expertise. So it's a question of being consistent and being in that direction, right?
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I think 1,000 hours is a lot of time to be invested on the topic. Shagun asks, sir, if you want to give your opinion, what if your work environment becomes really toxic when you're working somewhere?
Yeah, I think, sometimes we can find, so the important thing is that the work environment can be toxic, but I think you shouldn't become toxic, right? I think that's the most important thing, right? And that's why I said, like, we always say that whenever there's a challenge, the opportunities also would be there, right? I would say that if you think that, there is no way forward for you, you should shift your job for sure, right? But the thing is, don't take the first thing that comes to your way because you just want to escape from there, right? That's the reason I said that, wait for the opportunity that gives you the best break in the right direction you want to move, right? Because I think, see, you could probably be working for the best company in the world, but you could probably can have a very miserable person as your boss, possible. And I've seen that, right? So it's again in terms of how you react to that. There are a lot of stimulus that's happening around us. It's a response, right? And many times what happens is, I get a bad appraisal or I don't get a performance. What do? I'm not going to work hard. Nothing is going to change in this company, right? And the moment you say, oh, the good performance, there is no, if you perform well, there is no rewards in this company, right? Please understand that the rewards that you get may not be immediate, right? And because you have that attitude, so what happens is that you become toxic. You said, oh, I'm not going to work hard. I'm not going to do this job. Why should I work so hard? And the moment you get into that attitude, you're getting into a downward spiral. So that means that next time you're going to probably put less effort. And then, you're probably going to get a more worse appraisal, right? Can you be somebody who says, okay, I've taken it in my chin and I'll probably work hard and I'll probably prove that my boss was wrong by not promoting me, right? And many times, that is probably where the growth mindset is a very different. Growth mindset says, okay, I will take it in my chin and I'll probably think about what can I learn from this experience. And many times, trust me, bad experiences will teach you more than good experiences.
True, sir. Thank you. Manikanta is asking, is it okay to change industries but stay in the same function? Example, to be in the same sales and marketing function, but switch from, let's say, an edtech to a FMCG. Will it affect the growth of any person?
No. So I think, I would recommend that, if you are somebody who's uncomfortable with the industry change. I've known people who change industries, change functions, right? Change locations, right? At the same time, right? It is hard. At the same time, like, for example, like, when the telecom industry started in India, right? There weren't people with telecom experience. So we had to take people from other industries. The first BPOs in the country hired people from the hospitality industry, from the hotels. Because why? They have a customer care mindset. The first BPOs, because I was involved with setting up some of them in the country. And, we hired a lot of people from Taj hotels, right? So people can change industry, because see, what happens is the more senior you become, right? It's the functional skills that matter. The domain skills matter, but I think if you are somebody who wants to shift industry, you should be open to that, right? And sometimes you need a reskilling for it, right? I think the best thing is probably like look at MBA programs, not in the country, but outside the country, right? When I say outside the country, I would probably talk about, the reason I'm talking about is that programs that will require 3 to 5 years of work experience, right? And maybe one example in India to take is ISB, right? It's possible that people would have probably come with an experience and then they shift industry. Or some of the IIMs of some of you, right? You would have worked in the software industry for 2 years, right? And then you come and do a MBA and then you shift in another industry, right? So sometimes, shifting will require a reskilling. It need not be an MBA all the time, but many times people use MBA as a way of like shifting their function.
Yeah, thank you. Divakar is asking, Divakar, this is similar to what Mani had just asked. Is it okay to have exposure of multiple industry at the initial phase of your career? I think Divakar sir has just mentioned about this. It depends on the career path that you're wanting to take. In fact, in the initial phase of your career, multiple exposures will also give you the spread of your own understanding of businesses, of how different sectors work. Exposures, as sir mentioned, can also be from the functions and not only the sectors that you're looking out. You can move from a sales to an ops role, ops to a finance role, depending on whether you're enjoying that particular job role or not. Sir, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I think one thought that I would leave here is that, see, we are living in a country that it's not sometimes like the path that you want to take is not probably immediately available. So what do you do then, right? And you have to take up a job, right? It's okay to take up a job and build skills in the direction that you want to move in, because any job will teach you lessons that will be what we call about as transferable skills. Right? There are skills you can transfer from one experience
to. Sir, you will have to unmute yourself. I think the audio got muted. Last 5 seconds only.
Yeah, sorry. So I think the point I was emphasizing is that focus on the transferable skills. Anything that you do, there are certain transferable skills that you can take from one situation to another. So you could probably be in one industry and that's not your ideal industry that you would want to work for the next 20 years or 30 years, right? Or sometimes you're not very clear about your career also, which is also possible, right? Some of us has a need to work and probably take up the job that comes your way. The key there is to probably build your dependability, because many times what happens is it's not it's not the placement office, or it's probably not a headhunter which will probably give you the next career break. It's probably the people that you worked with, the customers that you've spoken to, the networks that you built, right? So if people know you as somebody, you might have worked in a company and then, or for example, I remember my first job change came through one of my classmates from MBA. And he was willing to refer me into that job because he knew there is a certain dependability with respect to what I was doing, and it was a change of industry also, right? Always look for those people. Could be your classmates, and that's why how you engage with other people are important. One more thing I would like to focus here is that many times in colleges what happens is that we could probably study the previous night of the exam and then get an A+ or an A grade, which is not possible in the industry. You are under constant evaluation every day. So how do you conduct yourself, right? What time you come to work, what time you leave, what you contribute, whom are you hanging around with? You are under constant scrutiny. Maybe it's a mail that you send and you make mistakes, or it's a report, or how are you handling that situation, right? So organizations always look for it's what we call a continuous evaluation, right? So you constantly, you cannot let your guard drop. And that is why the sprint and the marathon becomes important. You cannot say I'll work for the first 6 months and I'll probably take it easy for the next 6 months.
Correct. We're running out of time. We'll just take a last question, and for other questions, you can always post it on our platform on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. Abhay is asking, sir, how to remain motivated with a monotonous kind of job profile in your current job?
I think you should watch the movie The Karate Kid if you've not watched it, right? The job is, so if you think about Virat Kohli and probably some of the top performers athletes, right? What matters is the practice that they have, the time that they spend, right? Any job can be monotonous. It's about how you view it, is probably my view, right? There are things that you can learn from any job. Can you do the same job tomorrow a little different and make it better, make it faster, right? When we talk about a doctor with 20 years of experience, right? We trust a doctor with 20 years of experience rather than somebody who's a house surgeon. Why? Because the person has been doing that for the 20 years, right? The key here is to probably figure out, I have worked with people who absolutely hated their jobs. And what did they do? They automated their jobs. First-hand experience. Some of the user content reviews that we used to do at Facebook, I used to have a user operations team, and some of them used to hate what they were doing. A lot of manual work. And what did they do? They automated it. I remember about somebody else in one of my previous companies, Dell. She hated probably the payroll time because there is so much of information coming, and it was a BPO, right? New employees joining, some employees leaving. You have to hold somebody's salary. There is this thing. So different inputs used to come from different departments, and they had to be consolidated, and a payroll, and it probably many times in 48 hours it had to be turned around so that the salaries were paid on time. So she automated much of the work that needs to be done. So can you do something if your job is monotonous, if job is repetitive? Can you find a better way of doing it so that you can take more responsibilities?
Wonderful answer, sir. Thank you. So we'll call it a day here. As always, our Crack platform will continue to bring great sessions for you. Next week, which is our blockbuster finale session on season 3, we'll have Ravi with us. Ravi Kasaram is an ex-Harvard 2015 batch and is right now working as a director in Emerson. He'll talk to us about a very interesting topic which will be introduced by tomorrow. And you can hold on to that surprise. That will be at the same time, Saturday 12 to 1 p.m.